Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. We're going to wrap up today with a special selection, which is where one of you tell me exactly what it is I need to check out. Today we have one from Cade. Hey, Bryan and the CR squad. Today I'm requesting the song Tuesday by a band called BOaT. I want to read that as BOaT. From BOaT, I think. These guys were a funky pop rock band in Japan in the 90s who pulled a Talk Talk and went full post-rock on their final album in '01. After breaking up, most of the 9 members went on to become a free jazz post-rock band called Natsumen, who sometimes still play shows at summer festivals. I can't really qualify with words how much this album means to me, but it's my favorite album of all time, and it pulled me through some of the darkest moments when I was young. It's a perfect encapsulation of the sounds of youthful summers we wish we could live again. I hope you enjoy. Alright, so let's get into this. We got some BOaT, and track's called Tuesday. Let's hit it, see what they're bringing to the table. Really interesting reverb on the open snare. Either that or it's a really loose grip and they're letting the reverb from the drumsticks come out, which maybe that's what it is, a very natural snare reverb. That twangy guitar bend mixed with the slightly out of tune guitar on our left. It's crafting a vibe. I can't put it into words. A lot of very quiet vocals too, especially compared to the music around it. Both our verse and the chorus, different volume levels, same effects. we had a verse and what felt like a chorus, bombastic section with a second vocal, back to the verse, into chorus 2, another big section but different from our other chorus. And now we're back to our verse drum and passing the vocal line to the guitar. Yeah, the feedback as a palette cleanser was nice, while also introducing the distortion of this next section. Something very warm about this section. There was something warm about this section. Okay. So this track kind of bounced off of me. It was doing that from the beginning, but I could appreciate what it was aiming for, at the very least. That's not, well, I could appreciate it, right? We'll just leave it at that. It's indie rock, right? Sort of. It reminds me of a lot of indie rock as far as the sonic quality of the song, how it sounds, how the instruments sound. I coined a term last week called budget rock, and I think I want to use it again. This reminds me of budget rock. It's got that indie rock vibe, but sonically, between the hardware that they have and the production that they put on it, it sounds like somebody who didn't have a very large production to buy the equipment they needed or necessarily buy the studio time they needed to record it. Um, and again, that's not an inference into their financial situation or what went into the process of it, but it has that vibe. It sounds like they did things. It sounds like they compromised on a more fuller sound, based on financial reasons. And what we get out of that is production that feels a bit anemic in some places. Overall, feels a bit flat. Guitar tones that are lacking punch, uh, tonation things all throughout, um, and just a bunch of components that, if this were a more traditional band, would tell me that they didn't have enough time to put everything together. Like, they had to eventually say, well, you know what, this is going to be the best we got. That's our take for this, right? Where they didn't have an infinite amount of time to say, well, we'll keep recording until we perfect it. That kind of vibe. Again, I'm not saying that's how things went down, but that's what it feels like. That's what budget rock feels like to me. Um, but I'm going to approach all of this as if it was intentional. As often as I can, I want to be critical about it and approach the music on its own terms and assume that this is their vision. This is exactly what they wanted. They released it, and I mean, with the caveat that nobody ever makes music they 100% want to. There's always compromises in music, there's always something else that could have been tweaked, right? But, this is as far complete and exhaustive of their intentions as is physically possible. So, what do we get out of all this then? We have a song that has a very warm haze to it. So many of these moments, because they lack that punch and brightness in the EQ and the production, they end up feeling a bit warm. There's an orangeness to this entire song that I kind of get, other than the outro, which kind of coldens up a little bit, turns a bit blue. Um, but for a majority of this, it's this hazy sound. There's not a crisp cleanliness to the production. Everything kind of muddies together a little bit in a way that is still, it's still clear. I can still hear everything, but it's just a little blurry, just a little hazy. And that mixed with the lack of brightness of high-end EQ and punch, uh, just to me makes it feel very warm. There's a DIY element going on here, which I guess is a much better phrase than budget. We can call it DIY rock. That sounds more entrepreneurial than budget rock, which I think has negative connotations to it. Yeah, I think I'm recoining that phrase. We're changing the name of it. DIY rock. Does not roll off the tongue like budget rock though. Um, so that is the framework of this entire song though, is this warmth, right? Now in that we have, let's just start with the verse. The vocals are packed down into the track. They're quieter than both of our guitars. Our drum has an interesting reverb on the snare. Again, I don't know if it's one hit and then a digital reverb, or if literally has a very loose grip on the snare, so it gets the rebound, right? And of course, as things work out with the transition of kinetic to potential energy, each rebound is going to be less and less impactful than the one previous. Um, which gives us that quick volume decrease. The first hit's pretty loud, and then the next one's like half, and then we're very quiet, and then the last one's like a ghost note. Um, I think that's what's happening. It's what it sounds like to me, but it could be digital. Either way, one snare hit and we get an echo after it. It instills the idea of sparseness. You don't get echoes in places that are very densely packed. You get echoes in wide open spaces, big cavernous areas. The sound needs to be able to bounce off of stuff and have room to grow and move and expand. And it creates this sparseness to the track, which is already sparse. We have just the snare hit and a vocal you can barely hear and two other guitars, and that's pretty much it. So it's a sparse track already, but this makes it feel hollow. Like there's so much space around it. And then we have our two guitars. One of them only plays every once in a while. It was at the end of every 4 bars. They occasionally did it every 2 bars, but it's a little punctuating lick. It's a guitar bend. Hit a note, bend it, and then release it. Yeah, that's it. And our left guitar is playing chords. Very sparse. The drums just echo this with an echo. But beyond this, the two guitars are just tonation stuff. There is dissonance in all of it. There's dissonance in just the left guitar. It almost sounds like the strings are not completely tuned. They rushed into recording because they didn't have enough time. No, meeting it on its own grounds, intentionally detuned. And this creates a warble effect. Now, what's interesting is that this is pairing with the orange warmth, and I'm just picturing like very hot concrete, right? And you get those heat lines coming off of it. It happens in the desert too, I guess. I've never been to a desert. I see it around here when we hit 100 degrees Fahrenheit and feeling like 110 with no breeze and 90% humidity. Anyways, on the asphalt though, and just the waves coming off of it, and so we have this warble amidst this heat and this, or not heat, this warmth and this orangey color, and it feels to me miserable. Now, Cade had mentioned it felt like youthful summers. I mean, I can go along with that for the most part. Just that, summer to me, being a Floridian who's lived here all of my life, summers to me are unbearable. I definitely get the summer vibe here, but I think I get it from a different angle, and I think I have different emotions tied to that. But this feels very unbearable to me. And the dissonance just adds on to that. Sonically, I don't like dissonance. So, it's just, it's an interesting start that, that puts me in a mindset. Now, we move out of this into our, what I thought was a chorus. I was kind of hoping we'd bring this back, and we kind of did at the end. We had a female vocal come in and harmonize. The guitars became larger, bigger. We had some distortion added in there. And it was just a really big moment full of intonation dissonance. Both of our guitars are out of tune with each other. Our vocalists, while doing okay harmony with themselves, really showcases how out of tune our male vocalist is a majority of the time. And this is something I forgot to bring up in the verse, but it's present there too, but the vocals are just kind of stuffed down in there. But because of the dissonance of the guitars and the fact that they're out of tune, and our vocalist is singing with our guitars, utilizing them as a foundation, it really showcases how out of tune everything is, and there's just so much dissonance here. And I'm gonna return to this idea. I'm gonna talk about it in a few more places, but I'm gonna return to it in a more positive light, though. Right now, I'm just pointing it out. Interestingly, though, the vocals are also pushed down in the mix here as well. Not so much because they have more volume, they're louder, but everything around it is still louder than the vocals. So that's something we'll continue to see, is the music overshadow the vocals, EQ wise, volume wise. I'm not sure why. At this point in time, I have no notes or even like angles to view this on. It's just the technique of the song. Maybe as we explore more and I come to new conclusions, it makes sense. But as of right now, it's part of the sonic characteristics of the track is for the vocals to be quieter than the music. We come out of this, we go into a retread of the verse, and I thought we were going to go into another chorus, and we didn't. We hit a bridge. This was interesting because it showcased a lot of the same ideas we were already exploring in a different lens. Not much changed, but everything changed. And this is sort of what I feel is happening in a majority of this song. The more I think about the verse and the chorus, besides the overdrive being kicked on and the guitars now in unison, which means we lose our embellishing concept, the chorus is a lot like the verse, just bigger. The bridge is a lot like our verse. Our outro is a lot like our verse. Our distorted guitar section is a lot like our verse. Everything is based on dissonance, a just slightly muddy enough production to not feel very clear and clean, but still able to hear everything individually. And chords, lots and lots of chords, and vocals pushed down and covered up by instruments. And it's a bit reductive, right? But it is true. Especially since all of the sections feel the same to me. In a sense, not moving, retaining the summer vibes, especially as was commented, childhood summer vibes. This is the moment between school years, and it's when, at least in my experience, being a long time away from my childhood, we're not gonna put a number on that. Kind of everything blurs together, right? The summer was a bunch of singular days that probably all felt quite unique at the time, but in retrospect, it's not like I was going out and doing something different every day. You wake up, eat some breakfast, play with some toys, play some video games, watch some TV, go outside and do some Foursquare. Kids don't play Foursquare anymore. At least not around here. In my community, nobody knows what Foursquare is. None of these kids do. Anyways, that came out of nowhere. I love Foursquare though. I want to play adult Foursquare. I'm way off topic. And eat lunch, eat dinner, and do it all over again. Occasionally, if both parents were off, maybe we'd go out and do something. Drive over to the local park or, nearby water. Nice thing about Florida is there's water everywhere. And maybe go swimming because that doesn't cost money. And that was kind of a big. We were a family of seven, 5 kids. It was cheap, cheap adventures were definitely sought after. Um, but yeah, like the days just kind of run together in retrospect. There's a lot of the same things, slightly different. Maybe I had a different bowl of cereal, you know, but kind of all samey. But it's all fun because you don't go to school, right? Just the whole idea of having a day to yourself for weeks on end is exciting for a kid. And that's what this kind of feels like to me. I don't know how much of that was informed by the summer childhood comment, but summer is definitely a vibe I get out of this. Heat, at least. Warmth. Um, and there's also a childishness about it. And see, I want to bring this back, right? The intonation things. They could very well be intentional to drive home that inexperienced sound. These might be professional musicians. And by definition, they made music that they sold, I'm going to assume. People bought CDs, so that as far as I'm concerned, that makes them a professional. But the music sounds amateur, regardless of their skill level. Between the DIY production and the intonation, it sounds like a bunch of friends who just got together in a garage and busted out some tunes and found a way to record it on whatever quarters they could find in their couches and have a CD to release to people. And that sort of jovial naivety of just, whatever we can do, let's just get this done. It doesn't matter how good we are. It doesn't matter how expensive a production. We just want a CD to give to people, to sell to people. We wanted to make our mark on the music world. There's definitely a childhood summer adventure out of that, right? We got 3 months with no school. Let's put an album together. And that's what this kind of feels like to me. And I don't think any of that's true. As I was told, I'm pretty sure this is one of their later albums, maybe their last album. And they all went on to form another band, so definitely not inexperienced teenagers with a garage band, but that's the vibe it gives off, and that mixed with the summer thing, um, it really comes together as something that feels very wholesome. It feels very relatable as well. No different than anybody who's tried to do any project over the summer because they have time. You know, and trying to get something done in just 3 months because after that you go back to the mundanity of school or work or whatever, you know. And I really like that angle. But then the end happens, and there's actually a really neat transition. Everything so far has been rather smoothly moving from one idea to the next, but we have a single beat of loud amp feedback that leads into the largest, most uh, uh, distorted section of the song. This is when it hits that big rock moment. And I really like that. It's a palate cleanser that prepares us for the next section while also utilizing a sound that is unique to the next section. It is both a palate cleanser and a transition idea. It works very well despite being technically a very rough transition where we were doing one thing and now we're doing another. It's executed rather nicely. This section is actually really cool because we get a choir thing going on. There's 3 or 4 vocalists in here. there's still some intonation things going on in our chords, but it's really not that big of a deal now that my ears have gotten used to it. And what is going on? We have given a center channel to a guitar that is processed into pure feedback. It squeaks and screeches, and it's just not a good sound. I think I'd rather listen to. Jeez, I was gonna say nails on a chalkboard. I got the shivers already. I didn't even have to say it. I just had to think about it. Yeah, I don't. Why? And the weird thing is, it was center channeled where the choir kind of felt behind me. So it was taking all of my attention, and of course, it had to be louder than the vocals because that's the MO for this track. And just, it really dug into all of the aspects I was not a fan of: the dissonance, the DIY-ness, the undercooked production, and wrapped them all up into the worst combination of all three for my specific ears. Not only that, but it goes against everything I was feeling about this song up until that point. To me, this is a song about, I don't know what it's about, but it's a song that feels like summer. The best and the worst parts of it. It's a song about just getting something done, having work, having something to show for the work you put in, given a short amount of time that you have. And then they end it with that guitar tone that I can't relate back to what I was feeling about the song and actively made me not want to listen to it. We end the track with a fade out. All the instruments fade to nothing. We're left with just the chorus. Well, there was one instrument left over, wasn't there? Of course, our screechy guitar. It is the last thing I heard, and it left the sourest taste in my mouth. Maybe that's the point. Maybe summer's over, and maybe something bad happened at the end of summer. Whatever it is, the fun times are gone. They're almost forgotten at this point. Recency bias kicks in. The last thing I remember is that guitar tone, and well, I don't want to hear that again, so it kind of made the whole summer feel bad. I don't know. The song's also called Tuesday. I don't know how that works into it. That was my experience with the track, though. Oh, this kind of indie rock. Not bad. Kind of reminds me of microphones. They're doing the same thing. All right, we got a new section, kind of the same thing. Lots of intonation. Okay, more of the same thing. Guitar! Why? So it's not my jam in particular, but I was mostly on board with it up until that final minute or so. After that, it completely lost me, unfortunately. And of course, that's not to say it's a bad song, and I know our suggester is very close to the song, or at least to the album, is very near and dear to them. I don't want to tell anybody that's listening to music wrong, or if you like it, that your tastes are bad, or whatever like that. It just did not work for me. Like I said, it's not really my cup of tea to begin with, and beyond that, they really dug into things I don't like to wrap the song up. What is it with the finally? Okay. So I had to use a YouTube video there. I don't know if you guys noticed that. Recently, the past few weeks, I've been making sure that if it's a static image on YouTube, that I use higher quality audio, Apple Music. But that was just the album art, and I had to use YouTube because I couldn't find this anywhere else. And it was actually in the description of the video too. It says I just recently snagged the flax and decided to upload the whole album to YouTube since there's no high quality versions anywhere. And I was like, well, it's got to be somewhere else, but no, I checked everywhere. I couldn't find it anywhere. I had to use a YouTube video. And I almost thought I wouldn't be able to find the lyrics here. Interestingly, for a Japanese band, the lyrics are in English, which I kind of heard at some point, but other points did not sound like English to me. I'm Tuesday. I rest on high and loose days. I'm delighted with rummy today. I rest on nights and loose days. New summer days, I rest on high and rummy days. I'm lying and watching the flame. I rest on nights and Tuesday. Ah, rummy game. I'm making rope sand today. I'm delighted to lamb into the flame. I rest on nights and loose days. So my gut tells me there's a translation thing going on. Um, they also have a song called Rummy Night. So they keep talking about being delighted with. I don't know what rummy is, unless. So rummy is a card game. It's also an alcohol. Oh, an alcoholic, one who drinks rum. Interesting. So assuming that that's the angle they're going on, and not that they're just excited about card game nights. Interesting. I've never heard that word before, though. I'm delighted with rummy today. I rest on high and rummy days. Yeah, I don't know. It says I also rest on night and loose days. There's either some really cool wordplay going on here, or there is a bit of lost in translation thing going on. But the overall vibe here, to me at least, is relaxing. There's lots of resting and lying um, on nights and days. Even says, it calls them loose days. I don't know what particularly that means, but there's a relaxation to that. It's a real loose day. I'm not stressed out, maybe. And then our next section just says every day, every day, every night, every day, every night, every night, every day, every day, every night. uh, New summer days, I rest on high and rummy days. I'm lying and watching the flame. I rest on nights and Tuesdays. I want to worry about sunburn. I never wear out summer days. I want to worry about. Okay, so when it comes to the summer days, I'm out all the time. I want to worry about getting a sunburn, right? If I'm not worrying about it, then I'm not outside enough. I can get with that. I'm gonna broaden sundown, early in the morning get drunk. Okay, so I'm guessing the rummy nights and days are just drinking rum until you're drunk and enjoying the day while you're intoxicated. I'm gonna broaden sundown. You're gonna broaden sundown. Early in the morning, get drunk. We live from hand to mouth. You think of summer all time. It's just a pleasure of life. You're just a worrywart. You don't ask for the moon to get the sun. Sacrifice in baseball. He played very well. I love making ropes of sand. That's an interesting one. That's the second time that came up. I didn't talk about it last time. I don't know what a rope of sand is. You love to swim in the summer. A bright idea stuck me. We live from hand to mouth. Let's nod at the seaside, listen to the song, and trip into space. Under the moon, we're walking to the end. We rest on high and Tuesday. Last stanza. Let's nod at the seaside, listen to light in summer days. Under the moon, we're walking to the end. We rest on high and Tuesday. Let's nod at the seaside, listen to the light. Under the moon, rest in. Okay, so just repeats over and over. Yeah, I have no idea specifics here. There's either a lot of stuff going on over my head, or there's a lot of stuff that's loosely translated that doesn't quite make as much sense in English as they might have wanted it to. But I think the gist is coming across. It's about summer days, summer nights, and drinking and just having a good time and being real chill. Just about enjoying the summer before you have to not have summer. It's about enjoying the sunlight and the beaches and uh, apparently really often getting drunk early in the morning. There's a lot of repetition in here as well, which I think ties into the idea of the summer days blurring together, which I got from the music. Also talks about the beaches, which that's pretty typical summer idea. But I love how the moon is brought up as well. Uh, the summer isn't just about the sunshine and the beaches, but it's also about really nice moonlit walks. So, yeah, I mean, it's just a really warm song. That I guess is supposed to be about the positivities and youthfulness of summer life with no responsibilities. And the lyrics certainly play into that. The music plays into that, except for the ending. If someone's got information on the ending, if you have your own interpretation of it, let me know. Right? I kind of view it as the looming end of summer, the end of your break when you got to go back to your responsibilities, whether that's work or school or, whatever. But I'm still not 100% certain on that because it doesn't quite fit perfectly. Those are my thoughts on Tuesday by BOaT. This is where y'all come in. Hit me up in the comments. Let me know what you thought of this track, anything that stood out to you, anything you'd like to add on to what I said or correct me on. Let me know. Above the comments is a description box, and there's a link for Linktree. Takes you to this menu right here. Has links for everything related to the channel. You can find ways to support the channel, join communities around the channel, email me, check out the music I've been writing, so much more. Just go ahead and check the link above that if you could, like, subscribe and ring the bell. That wraps it up for today. That wraps it up for today. uh, I'll be back tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 10 p.m. UTC as usual. We'll continue on with Jazz Week and check out another special selection. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening whenever you choose to watch my videos.